Greetings, everybody. Greetings. We're a little late. Realized a certain flaw, things didn't fall through, but we're going to roll with the punches. Today's topic is what I thought it was going to be versus how it really ended up being. So with this, I was expecting to have a guest. Unfortunately, things don't work out, but we roll with the punches and we make it happen. So we're going to have this quick talk tonight. It is 7:38 Eastern Time. I'm going to be done in 30 minutes. So I want to talk to you about this topic. This topic really centers around the idea of doctoral expectations. So with that said, I'm going to talk about 5 things that came up. I had a conversation with people online about this particular topic. I actually asked the question, what expectations did you have to let go as you grew through the doctoral process? And I got a lot of responses, probably more responses than I needed, but it was great. It was good engaging with everyone and getting these opinions because it kind of took me to some areas that I didn't totally think about at first, but I'm glad I had that conversation. So before we begin, I'll introduce myself. My name is Dr. Derek Robinson. I'm a researcher, teacher, lead consultant for My Advantage Career and Consulting Services. You can find me out at myadvantage.org. And if you look, you'll see me at the bottom of the screen scrolling with www.myadvantage.org. I specialize in working with doctoral students, particularly those in the pre-dissertation stage, giving them the skill sets and things and habits of mind that transcend through their entire program. By working with me, working with those who do what I do, and not going through this alone, what you discover is that there are certain skill sets that you're going to need in every single class and definitely need when you enter into the pre-dissertation, into the dissertation stage. You do not want to go through this alone, solo-minded and narrow-minded, because I've known of many people who've done that and they're lost in ABD land. So you do not want to do that process. So I offer services that focus on that particular skill set. I offer courses, I offer coaching. I can come do consulting if need be to classes of doctoral students. So if you're a university professor and you want to get a particular point across, but you don't always have time to teach these intangible skills, I'm available to do special sessions to work on some of those intangible skills so that students can actually work better in your class or throughout their entire process. So that's me. And tonight, what I want to talk about are doctoral expectations. The topic of this is what I thought it was going to be. The extended topic is what I thought it was going to be versus what it turned out to be. And it's kind of a play on the popular social media kind of phrasing that simply is how it started versus how it's going. It's how it started in my doctoral program versus how it's going. So in history, I have worked as a program coordinator for a particular university. And what I discovered was that the expectations in interviewing upcoming doctoral students was that their expectations didn't always match what things turned out to be. So going through that, I developed a pre-doctoral workshop to work with students on doctoral expectations, what you're going to experience, how you should grow, things like that. And I hope it worked well. Our students are still there, and they're coming up on their graduations and coming up on their dissertation proposals and defenses. So hopefully that helped out. But it was based on this idea of working with those expectations and making sure that they were rooted in something real. Tonight's topic, actually, because of the feedback that I gave, I broke it down into 5 areas. Those 5 areas are perfection, growth, comparing experiences, self-doubt, and relationships. Those are the 5 experiences or themes that emerge from my conversations with people about this topic. And I'll repeat them again. Perfection or perfectionism, growth or the need to expand and grow, comparing experiences, self-doubt, and relationships. And I'm going to share with you the actual words of our participants or the people I engage with, and I'll share those experiences later. What I want to do right now is give a shout out to a business partner, bougieshootery.com, led by Jacqueline Robinson. She's maker of excellent charcuterie boxes and boards. I know that they're good. I actually sent one out today via mail, so she does ship. You can find her information on all social media platforms, and it's bougieshootery.com. And you see it scrolling down here on the screen, www.bougieshootery.com. But if you research Bougie Shootery on all social media platforms, you'll find her there. So that is a definite business connection and business partner that you'll want to engage with. So let us get started. Tonight's topic is about doctoral expectations, and we're going to do it the first theme in doctoral expectations, which is this idea of perfection or perfectionism. So I'm going to go ahead and share with you what was told to me. The first comment about this idea of expectations that had to be let go, as that comments meant that I failed. When a person turned in their assignments and they got feedback, sometimes people took that feedback as if it was a failing moment for them, and it doesn't have to be. Oftentimes, the comments and feedback are intended for you to grow. So the person actually continues saying, "Comments help my study be clear, but it took me personally for a while." So they got the comments and the feedback and took it personal, and then that hurt for a minute. It stung, and I get that. But they were allowed to grow from that, and they created something even better. The issue with perfectionism is this, and I understand where it comes from. If you have made it to the doctoral level, to the doctoral program, chances are you have done school very, very well, from grade school through college and even into a graduate school program. You were and are the AP/IB student of the doctoral world. You did school very well. You probably were used to grades as an indicator that you were a perfect student, and you got used to that. You probably also got used to the fact that most of what you didn't get harsh feedback. You always got great grades. You've always maintained a high GPA and things like that. And then you find out, when you come to a doctoral program, we need a little more. So not everything was about having a 4.0. It was about who you are and how you grow. But because of the fact that you've been successful on every level of schooling, it can create within us this idea that my work is perfect. Perfectionism slows growth. You have to understand that. Perfectionism, this idea that everything I have to do has to be perfect, slows growth. So let's hear what someone else had to say. They also said, in regards to that question about expectations they had to let go, I had to get rid of the notion that I knew everything. They actually wrote anything. Trust your chairs, follow their lead, you will win. There will come moments in this process where you've got to trust the advice you're being given. And that's difficult for perfectionists because they've been so great in everything they've done. Now you reach a point where you don't know every single thing, and you've now received feedback that you may not like, but you have to trust the process for people to get you there and get you achieved and out of here. So you have to accept that as the part of the process of growing. And ultimately, if you trust that process, you trust others to lead you, you will win. We're in the process of pushing you further. So when we give you feedback, is with the understanding that we recognize your talent. We admitted you into the program. So we know you have talent to be here. You can occupy the seat. But now we're going to push you further, because the idea is that when you leave here and you go into your respective world, whether it's in higher education, corporate America, whatever field you're in, that you go there as an authority on a topic that you have chosen for your research, that you go and impact and move the field forward. That's an expectation. So in order to do that, you've got to embrace some of the bumps and bruises that goes along with that. Another participant noted in answering that question that everything had to be perfect. By the end, everything just had to get done. I still finished with my desired GPA, but those last assignments were definitely not my best work. Accept the fact that not every work you're going to do is going to be the perfect piece of work ever. That it will have some imperfections, that you will grow. What I've noticed too, and I did this in my personal experience, my advisor, wise man, said, no one leaves this thing unscathed. So when I went through my dissertation proposal, when I sat there and asked my committee for the permission to do this study, and I did my background research and everything else, they lit that paper up. They had all these other recommendations that I needed to do before I could start my research. Had I been a perfectionist, I'd have quit that day. But because of my advisor who walked me in saying, no one walks out of this unscathed, I expected it. And because I expected it and let go of that perfection idea, I was able to kind of make it through and not be torn apart. I'll give you this. All of us go through it. Even now as professors and researchers and things like that, when we submit research for articles, for journals, we get harsh feedback. No one comes out of it unscathed. Everyone has this reviewer number 2. Actually, ask your professor about reviewer number 2 and then look in their face when you do. They will give you a smile and a smirk because they understand that even as a professor, even gone through that gauntlet and gone through that process, you will still submit work that will not be your perfect work, that you will still get feedback. And sometimes that feedback can be a little hurtful. And if you are of the perfectionist mindset, you may be scared out of this process. It may shake your foundation, but it's necessary. It's part of the process. So go through it, embrace it, and accept it for what it is. It's part of the process to help you get better. Another person said they expected they would get an A for every class. At this point in the game, you're in a terminal degree. Your GPA might not mean as much as it used to in high school. And I'll admit, in high school, it meant everything. In undergrad, it meant something. In graduate school, it meant something. At this point, you've earned the right to be here for your terminal degree. You may not get an A in every single thing, but that does not mean that you're not learning. Just don't get C's. Don't get that. But understand the process. You do not have to have a perfect paper for everything. Not everything has to be your magnum opus, things like that. You are part of this growing process, so accept it. One person said, and I have plenty of other statements that I'll get to you, but it said a dissertation is the start of your research career, but not the end of it. It is not intended to be a magnum opus. It is merely an entry pass. Just get your dissertation done. Great works come later. Oftentimes, your dissertation is the start of your research career. It is the launching pad. I suggest to my students that they publish before that so they understand and appreciate the publication process. But your dissertation is a big deal. It will, in many cases, launch your research career. Doesn't have to be the most perfect thing, but it has to be done. And it has to be something you're proud of. And it has to be something that you can grow from, that it can launch into many other things. So keep that in mind. This idea of perfectionism can crack most people. And the worst thing that it does, even to people who are occupying the world I'm in, is it will keep you from doing your work. It'll keep you from completing your work. Once you complete it even, it'll keep you from submitting your work because no one wants to have their perfect work criticized. So there are many professors out there, possibly even yours, who has a completed manuscript sitting in a Google folder that they haven't submitted because they're suffering from perfectionism. Perfectionism is a disease of the mind. So do not let that prevent you from ultimately reaching your ultimate success and doing what you need to do. Now, before we go to the next theme, I want to give a shout out to the Done Dissertation, Dr. Ramon Goins and the Done Dissertation program. If you are in the dissertation process, if you are working through the dissertation process and eyeing going into higher education as your next step in your career trajectory, check out Dr. Ramon Goins on all social media platforms and check out the Done Dissertation. The website is actually on the rolling screen. It's the donedissertation.com. Check out his program. Check out the testimonies of those who have gone through the program and have had remarkable success. It is a proven process. He's the author of the book, 14 Secrets to a Done Dissertation. I've had him speak at my school and speak to doc students. Excellent program, excellent researcher, proven researcher, through and through. So check him out at thedonedissertation.com and check out the program, but be part of that. It does work, and he's a great partner in this work with me, kind of a colleague, thought partner, mentor, things like that. Excellent brother, and great work that he's doing. So thedonedissertation.com. Now, our second theme in this process was amounted to what I would call growth. Part of this process, because you have been the perfect student throughout everything till you got to this dissertation journey, it's hard to grow. I've talked with students coming into the programs, and they have already known what they're going to research, what they're going to do, because they've worked in the field, they know the truth. And it's difficult to grow in that way. It's difficult to accept new knowledge. So growth is going to be a part of the process of shedding away expectations and accepting a new reality. So with that said, we have people who come into this program and they have a timeline of everything they want to do, and they really impress you in the interviews because they're focused, they know what they want to study, they know their timelines, things like that. And I've learned to be more unimpressed with that than impressed. So one of the comments made in this process talking about this was, I had to let go of my timeline and realize that it takes as long as it takes. My data collection didn't go as planned, and I had to pivot my research questions. It took 5 years instead of 4, but at the end of the day, my name is Dr. whatever the last name is. I'm not giving you that, but they made that accomplishment by shedding their idea of the perfect timeline. Oftentimes when I work with prospective clients, I ask them, what is your timeline to get all of this done? That's a question that if you answer it too perfect, I get scared. But if you give me an exact timeline, how certain things have to get done, what will you do if things don't work out in that process? What will happen if you reach a bump in the road? If you have to get your research approved by a committee, what if that takes time? If you have to go to university to get permission to conduct research and you figure it had to be done by a certain date, what if they're a month late? What if it takes time to get the data that you expected to get? Do you crack under pressure? Do you have to readjust your timeline? Are you uncomfortable with that? Does it make you quit? That's an important thing to think about. So having a timeline is cool, but having an adjusted timeline, having a realistic timeline, having a timeline that says it takes as long as it takes, that is going to be important. That's what you're going to need to know and understand and be able to realize in order to grow in this program. So once again, I'm not saying do not have any timeline. We do want you to graduate. We do want you to get out of here. But don't be so rigid that you can't accept the bumps and the bruises and the detours and the alternate routes you have to take to get this thing done. Oftentimes, those students who come in with that laser-like focus really get hit with reality and have to decide to make that change. So I do not want you lost in ABD land. I do not want you with a couple of coursework so you're at somebody's dinner party saying you're still working on your doctoral degree and it's 15 years later and you haven't taken a class, things like that. I do not want you to drop off and then try to get readmitted 15 years later. So once again, grow. Open up your mind, grow with the process, roll with the punches, and realize you will get it done. There was another topic, the comment said. The one thing they had to let go of is the idea that they will solve the problem that first drew them to their research. When you go into this program, we interview potential students and we ask them what they're interested in, and some say, I don't know yet, I'm open to finding out, or these are areas that I kind of think about a lot. I like that student because they're open to grow. It's the student who comes in and says exactly what they're going to do, exactly what they're going to research, that scares me. Because what are you going to do if the topic you think you're going to research requires that you accomplish other topics first before you get to that? That research topic that you think you're interested in may well be on your research trajectory, your career trajectory, but it may take you a few years to get there. You may have to accomplish some other issues and researches related to that before you get to that ultimate topic that you were interested in originally. Can you evolve? Can you grow? Can you accept the changes that you have to go through? Can you accept knowledge that tells you that before you get to this particular topic, you got a few others you got to get accomplished? Can you accept that and still grow? When I first entered the program, my doctoral program, I was an assistant principal at a high school. And dealing with what I dealt with every single day, I went in knowing I wanted to study school discipline. I had to figure this thing out. For me, for my students, for everyone involved. What I learned throughout the process was it was deeper than dealing with school suspensions and disproportionality and things like that. There were other things and topics I had to understand in order to grow and become better with this. I had to accept that my topic that was going to be on school discipline had to first be on other topics related to it, like school climate, school culture, teacher effectiveness, teacher expectations. All of these subtopics I had to grow to. And to date, I'm still not there yet on totally dealing with discipline. It's in the trajectory, but I'm building this idea first with subtopics and other topics related that got to get accomplished first. Can you grow in your understanding of this topic such that you can reach it on your trajectory? The person who gave us this comment here understood that they had to let go of the idea of this topic or problem that drew them to the research. It's not gone. It's just that they have to adjust and then maneuver, and maybe this topic is on their research trajectory, but it probably won't be dealt with for another 4 or 5 years. You have to accept that in order to grow. But if you're stuck in perfectionism, if you're stuck in thinking that this is exactly what I'm going to do and I'm so laser focused, I'm not open to anything else, that could be the one thing that derails you. So I want you to think about that as you grow through this process, because you may run into the moment where you have to kind of sidestep and pivot to grow and understand what you have to do in this process. So that is the idea of growth, the theme of growth. Once again, there are many other comments here, and I will share those later, but I want to make sure that you are, getting this. And once again, I only have a few more minutes. So tonight took a little longer because of our late start. For those of you who came in, thank you. As we're doing that, we're going to pivot, and I want to shout out another company, another business person that has supported me in everything I've ever done since I've entered the profession of education. And that is Mr. James Lampkin, who has a podcast called Conversations with Lamp. He just put out a new episode today. I will share in the comment section, but he has done an excellent job. I've known him since, had to be like 1993 or 94 or something like that, but he is an excellent guy. You can find him on all social media platforms. You can also find him on SoundCloud. If you just look up Conversations with Lamp. I'm going to share that link and make sure that you get it. But check him out. dynamite person, dynamite research, that he's doing. Um, Hope that goes through for everybody. But once again, find them in Conversations with Lamp. Now, the third theme in this topic, when I asked people what expectations did you had to get rid of or adjust as you maneuvered or navigated through the doctoral program, that topic was comparing experiences. So that came out as a topic worth studying. So what happened with this, what I mean by that is many of the people who actually spoke to this talked about comparing their experience to the experience of people that they've known who have gone through a doctoral program. So many people enter into a doctoral program because they knew of somebody who did it. Once again, former students and graduated students are perfect examples and recommendations and references for future students. So if you're in a program, who are you bringing up? Who are you sharing in the experience so that they can learn from your example and then engage in this process? So keep that in mind as you are moving through this process. But I want you to consider that. Also, as you're navigating through this process, understand that even their experience may not be yours. So comparing experiences may set you up for disappointment, can possibly set you up for failure. Even comparing your experiences to the people in your classroom is different. You will all have a different and unique experience in this process and in the program that you pursue. So keep that in mind as you navigate through that, because they're going to be different. So because of that, I want you to think about what my conversation with people came out to say, because when I went through my program, I was, like I said, I was an assistant principal in a high school, and I was dealing with stuff every day, and I'm doing my research at night and on weekends, and I'm seeing a lot of connections. So I go into the classroom and I share what I'm learning in the research, also integrated with what I see in practice. But my experience wasn't everyone's experience. We were in different schools. We were in different fields. Some people weren't in schools at all. So their experience was different. So my experience is not the experience of people that I knew who went through a program. It wasn't the experience of those who sat in the classroom right next to me. We had commonalities, but all of our experiences were different. Even if we studied the same topic, your approach and your design may be different from mine. So we cannot compare those experiences because they're all different. They're all unique, things like that. So you have to expect that, and you have to embrace that your experience will be different and unique. So when asked about an idea that they had to let go, one person commented, comparing my experience to others. Everyone's experience is different, and embracing my experience. Embracing the uniqueness that you bring to the table based upon how the research hits you, hits what you see, hits what you experience, and hits how you see the world. All of that impacts how you do this work. So you have to accept and embrace that. Another person said, in comparing experiences, everything will be hard. Just get your point across and be adventurous. So embracing it is not made for everybody. This is a process that is challenging, it's unique. It may be easier than you thought if you build it up that this is impossible to do. So everyone's experience and their approach to this doctoral program and doctoral journey is going to be different. So once again, get to your point, but be adventurous. Be open to the process. Be willing to learn more. Be willing to read the extra thing. Be willing to accept that you want people to be hard with you, because once you leave your terminal degree, that's it. We expect you to be an authority in this, or at least a growing authority in this process. So understanding that. Another person said this, and I think this is hit the nail on the head. I don't know if to say much more to this, particularly with this theme. This is not a competition. When you are in this doctoral program, all of you are banded together. You will graduate. You will finish prayerfully. But this is not a competition. There's no one in that room, in that classroom, who can take what's yours. There's no one in a doctoral program who can get your topic and do your topic your way. All of us can embrace the exact same topic, but because of our approach to it, because of the design we use, because of the uniqueness of our study, it's totally ours. It's not a competition. If you see that one person is progressing really fast and they graduate early, that doesn't mean that they're better than you. Doesn't mean that they're going to have yours. You have what's made for you. I think that's the best way to say it. When people say what's yours is meant for you, or what's meant for you is yours, that's the best way to put that. So that's the conversation you have to get into. What's meant for you is meant for you. Your approach, your time is yours. Comparing yourself to others only lets you let yourself down, or it's a poor example of pride. Because if you're comparing yourself by others, you're either looking to beat them or you're mad because they beat you. Well, we're not in this doctoral program to beat everybody. These are your colleagues who become your co-researchers, become your friends. You'll have them in different places as everybody's life moves in different directions. You can't compare. It's a horrible thing to compare your experience to everyone else's. So that thing we have to definitely let go. The fourth thing that came out in this talk that I had with people about the doctoral experiences they had to let go is the idea of self-doubt. Self-doubt is extremely prevalent in all of our fields because we experience things that can definitely crush your idea. So let's back up. If you are gone through this idea of perfectionism and you realize that not everything is going to be perfect, it has to be perfect, and you're going to experience like cracks in the process, bumps and bruises, growth opportunities. Once you let that go and you open up yourself to growth and stop comparing your experience to the person next to you or the person previous before, now you move to this point where you start dealing with and overcoming this idea of self-doubt. Self-doubt creeps in when things don't go perfectly the way you expected them to do, and after you start pointing the finger at everyone else, you start thinking, well, maybe it's me. And that's a poor way to kind of enter into this. You do not want, self-doubt can become consuming and it doesn't help the growth. So once again, self-doubt, and all of us are that way to some degree. I compare the inside of me to the outside of others all the time. I recognize that it's a flaw in my character, but it's part of the growth process. So what we got from people when we talked to them and asked them a question about the thing they had to let go, letting go of self-doubt was one of them. One of the persons said this, what they had to let go, that I would not be able to meet the demands and challenges of a doctoral program, not smart enough. That is deep because all of us approach this with some insecurity. Even those who walk in totally confident that this is what they're going to do, this is what I'm going to study, that could serve as a mask for the insecurity. In fact, perfectionism is based in insecurity. It's based in some self-doubt. It's based in feeling like, am I as smart as I'm supposed to be? Because when you're met with challenges, and trust me, any program worth getting into is going to challenge you. It's going to push you. When you meet those pushes and challenges, what are you thinking? What does it make of you? How do you see yourself now? So that idea of self-doubt has to be addressed and crushed at that moment. And I see that we have a person coming in, Eudorius Jones, University of Memphis. Thank you for coming in. I appreciate you being here. Much love. I will be talking. I have a special place in my heart for the University of Memphis, and I will be talking to a group next week there. So thank you for coming through. I appreciate it. Back to this idea of self-doubt. Once again, we had another person say, and this came up quite often, I thought it would be easy because I am smart. Yes, you are smart. Yes, you are intelligent. Yes, you have what it takes to make it. I don't want you to get caught up in the idea that because you were so great in elementary, middle, high, undergrad, and your master's program, that you can just walk through this and not get touched a little bit. You will. You'll be challenged. If you start doubting if you're intelligent enough, it does not take massive intelligence, and we need to redefine what it means to be smart anyway. But it doesn't take that. It takes perseverance. It takes willingness to learn, willingness to stretch yourself, and the discipline to be open to ideas. That gets you through the doctoral program. Also, a little bit of writing and some hard work, But if you made it to this point, please know you're smart enough to get through. You just have to buckle down and accept that there's going to be bumps and bruises along the process, but you are smart enough to get through. One person actually said this too. Honestly, I thought it was going to be harder than it was. Now, don't get me wrong. It was hard. But as an undergrad and someone working on a master's degree, I was put off by the language. The whole language, you hear things like dissertation, committee, IRB, proposal, and defense. That language can be intimidating. The person also says, once I learned the language, things got a little easier. We give you these words and they sound intimidating. Things like dissertation, this long 250, 300, 400 word book report, as my advisor would call it. We give you these words. They sound challenging and difficult. Once you understand what they are and you understand the process, and you understand that there are people there to guide you through this, that want you to get through this, and you understand that you cannot get through this alone, you can make it. Self-doubt eases up when you know you have backup, when you know you have support, when you know you have people who want you to accomplish this. One of the things I deal with in my practice is the idea of self-doubt. And people actually come to me not because they need help with writing necessarily. They need someone who can push them when they're by themselves, when they need that assistance to get through. And my job oftentimes is motivator, convincing them they can do this, helping them understand the strategies to take this big thing and break it down into smaller points and get it done. That becomes oftentimes my role. So that is a part of the process. And before we move to the next thing, the final theme in this, which is relationships, I do want to give another shout out. There is a program that's going to be coming very soon. I've been advertising for it on all of my social media platforms. We're putting together a Math Advantage Camp for those rising 4th and 5th and 6th graders to give them an advantage as they move into the next grade. I'm looking right now for instructors who are talented at teaching math, talented at content creation, talented and willing to actually do the work to create content for students that they can start this summer getting early exposure to math concepts for their upcoming grade. There is a possibility part of the program is you will share in the profits of the camp. So I'm not paying you a wage, not paying you a salary, it's actually sharing in the profits. Now you get a percentage of the profits. So if you have or know of anybody who elementary and middle grades who can teach math very well and can create content, please have them contact me or contact any of my social media platforms to see the advertisements. There's application there. There's explanations for how everything will happen. But make sure that they are part of this process and that they can actually take part of this. I'm looking for the best of the best. So, and the best of the best does not always mean that they have, advanced and high proficiency students. I understand that in school people play with a stacked deck. So you take A students and turn A students into A students. I'm not impressed by that. I'm looking for someone who can actually help students push forward and get an early exposure and advantage as they move into the next grade. That's why it's called the Math Advantage Camp. It will start this summer, but actually I need to bring people on board soon. The work that you will do will be done before the summer begins. So once again, please check me out on that. I would appreciate having as many people as I can get in this process to actually extract the best teachers we can find. So once again, if you are available for this, it is the Math Advantage Camp. I will share information on all of my social media platforms. You'll see it. And if you are interested, please apply or recommend someone to apply. So with that said, we'll move on to the last concept, And this is the concept of relationships. Once again, I actually went out and asked present doctoral students, those who have also graduated, those who have went through and are now in higher ed, and I asked them a simple question. I asked them, what expectations did you have to get rid of as you navigated through higher education, if you navigated through the doctoral program? And they gave me a ton of advice and a ton of stories and things like that. And of the last theme, the first theme was perfection, the second was growth, the third was comparing experiences, the fourth was self-doubt, the fifth theme, like this, the fifth theme was relationships. And I can agree with that. You cannot get through this program alone. In one of my programs that I talk about in myadvantage.org, the Academic Professional Survivor Guide, is that there are no solo acts in a doctoral program. You cannot get through this by yourself. It's going to take some colleague, classmate, spouse, child, somebody to inspire you, to keep you going, to keep you disciplined, to stay on you, to constantly engage you in conversations about what you're doing in order for you to get through this process. My friends and colleagues, we all are still on the same group chat that we were on when we started the program, and we use it to motivate each other. We use it to let everybody know that we support you and that we got you and that you got this. You know, we also showed up for everybody's dissertation defenses to let them know we were there and we were there for you. So once again, relationships are everything in completing a doctoral program. So what we heard from our people when we asked this question about what expectations they had to get rid of, is this idea first of dealing with their chairs. As you move into the later stage of the doctoral process, your chair is everything. And they said, how did you deal with the chair saying one thing and the subject matter expert, SME, saying another? It's like you're in a circle and the chair does not want to meet while the SME does. You may have a complicated committee, because committees are about relationships that are beyond you. But having a harmonious committee makes your life a lot easier. Letting your chair have ultimate say so in who to bring to the table. Because I know I wanted to bring certain people to my table, and my chair knew that had I did that, it would have been much more complicated for me to get out. So my chair helped approve how I chose people to be on my committee, and everyone had a purpose. But when you have different personalities at the table, it can make moving through that process extremely hard. So having a relationship with your chair such that they can be honest and candid with you, such that they can be serve as advisors, true advisors to you, is going to be of utmost importance. Another person said this: I had to get rid of all expectations. Nothing went as planned, even when following the advice of my committee. I adopted a "it is what it is" mentality and tried to go with the flow as much as possible. Oftentimes you'll hear this saying, that the best dissertation is a done dissertation. Oftentimes you'll figure out it's the relationships and what you have to shed, that these expectations that people will be always available for you and things like that. You have to learn how to get on people's schedules, learn how to navigate between people, learn how to show people that you're serious in this process in order for you to do this well. That's part of the process of getting through a program like this. So I want you to keep that in mind. Get rid of some of these expectations that people are just going to be there standing, waiting for you, tapping you on your shoulder, like, are you going to have this chapter done? Are you going to get this work done? Things like that. That may not happen. And if it doesn't happen, can you still get the work done? Your relationships mean everything. Another person said this, and this is real. They had to get rid of the expectation, and I'll quote, that everyone was happy for me. Not everyone that you think should be happy for you doing this program is happy for you. One of the first people that I thought would be excited when I told him I got accepted into a doctoral program because my other colleague was finishing up his doctoral program. I went to a person that was pretty much a advisor and leader to me, and they were disappointed that I was actually getting into this program. They thought it would be a hindrance in my career. They thought my career was supposed to go one particular way. Now, later on, once they saw me in the program and they saw what it was doing for me, they came to me and said, I was wrong. This is you. And that made the world to me. That helped mend that wound that was there, because I was actually hurt that they weren't as happy for me as I wanted them to be. Sometimes you'll discover what people really think of you and expect of you because they want you to be a particular way for them. But through understanding these relationships, they may not get it until later. So not everybody will be happy for you as you go through this. And you would think, well, what's the problem with me getting a doctorate? But it may be that your spouse needs more of you. It may be that people on your job wanted you to go a particular way. And seeing you do this means you may eventually depart from them. It happens. So understanding this part of the process, that not everyone will be happy for you. Don't get pinned up on that. Everyone may not understand originally, but at some point in time, they will reach understanding that this is what you have had to do, is what you desire to do, and it's part of a long-term trajectory that you're on that they may not see. You may not even see where this is going to take you. But that is another thing, the relationships, you have to be guarded with that. And you also have to be forgiving. Not everybody's supposed to see everything that you want. So that may be your dream, not necessarily theirs. You have to accept that. And I'll close with this part. This person said, if you do not connect with your advisor, it's okay to get another one. You have to navigate relationships though, because people have relationships that you don't know about. So you have to respectfully navigate through people in higher education, because it's a small world. They all meet together. They all know each other. They may collaborate on projects together. You don't know the relationship at all. So be mindful of how you navigate certain relationships, how you choose your advisors, whether it's assigned or you get the opportunity to choose it based upon commonalities and research interests and things like that. You have to be mindful of that, and also making sure that you are able to actually develop that relationship. Utilize those office hours, get to know them, let them get to know you and how you work and what you desire to do and things like that. In my course, the Academic Professional Survivor Guide, and I also do this in my coaching too, I teach strategies about even how to conduct a professional meeting with your advisors. And conducting this meeting the right way ensures that you can get through faster, because it indicates your level of seriousness. It also indicates how best to maneuver with you. Your advisors will respect your respect of their time, and you will get feedback eventually. And sometimes you get feedback faster because you've shown your level of seriousness. So with that said, ladies and gentlemen, I know it's later than I expected. We got started late. Next week we'll have another topic. The topic will be out hopefully tomorrow or Thursday. But I enjoyed this time talking. I will make sure this here is edited and ready to go out by Thursday at least, and we'll have a new topic. I invite you back. I invite you to come in. I actually want to have it where we can talk. So I want to create a way where you can come in and actually join me in the conversation, because I don't want to have to always be up here lecturing. I want to engage in the conversation, field questions, invite people in to actually talk with me through this process. So that's going to be how we move forward with this. And I'll make sure that in the next broadcast, we have people here to engage in this conversation. So once again, I'm Dr. Derek Robinson. This is the Doctoral Journey with Derek. Thank you for showing up and being part of this process. Bye now.